Hey, welcome to episode 1 of the Imelda MarCAST. It is a podcast hosted by Dave, who's me, the guitar half of Chicago band Imelda Marcos. As you know, COVID is ensuring that no one is playing shows this year or touring, and that makes me miss my musician pals that I like playing with and chatting with. So this is my opportunity to catch up with these people and maybe pick their brains a little bit. Our first guest is Evan Lacksmer of the band Spanyurd and Nonzoo. He's a bassist. First met him in 2010, and I consider him my musical mentor. Enjoy. Well,
Pure
first, I like the Lizzy Mercier Descloux hoodie.
Oh, this?
Is that like vintage? Because I imagine...
No, this, you know, there's I forget what the name of the actual, I forget the name of the actual website, but there's these like, it's kind of like the t-shirt, band t-shirt equivalent of like Etsy, but it's like I think it's called
I know what you're talking about.
Great. I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
And like, I've been looking around a few months ago. I got onto this, you know, like when you get cravings, I was like, yeah, I don't know why I wanted some band shirts. And I'm like, but I don't just want like any old band shirt. It's going to feel stupid. It's something that I'm going to feel somewhat attached to. And so I was looking around different bands. It's like, oh, let's see if this band has t-shirt. Let's see if that band has t-shirts. And then I tried to find like Lizzy, Mercier, Descloux shirts. And all the ones I found are terrible designs. There'll be just like a picture of her and barely a name. And I'm like, that's a pic, you know, it's some girl. I don't want, there's got to be something that design-wise is more interesting. So on that side, there was this knockoff, like it's a...
So it's a bootleg.
Neubauten. Yeah, it's all bootleg.
Yeah.
None of it is official. Actually, there's a website of a label that released one of her records that has like an official... I guess it's official. It's official. It's God. I gotta get used to the microphone. As official as it's gonna get.
Yeah.
And just the design didn't appeal to me. This one seemed funny because it's like using the Neubauten logo.
Yeah.
But it says Lizzy, Mercier, Descloux, and I happen to like both bands, maybe one more than the other. And so I was like, fuck it.
You ever gotten any compliments on that hoodie? Does anyone know who that is? I think I only know because of you.
No, I remember when I told Sam, you know the Sam I'm referring to.
Sam of Nonzoo.
Yeah, that's Sam. When I told Sam, and I sent her like I guess a JPEG from the website or what it was, she was like, that's so terrible that people do that, and it's like these bootlegs knock off. And now she went on this diatribe of people that do real screen printing get fucked over by people that do these bootlegs and make money off of it. I'm like, I just really like the design. I'm sorry if that seems I just wanted a shirt or a hoodie that I wanted to wear, so I got this.
No, I also have a few bootleg shirts, and
I've seen you wear a few back in the day. So
and no, it sucks when like the official band designs are terrible, and it's like, I want to give you money, but like this design, it sucks.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna name names, but like it's unfortunate.
Right. Yeah, there's quite a bit of that. Like there's quite a bit of that. At bands that like, I don't understand why sometimes bands put the amount of effort and time and work in general into like crafting the music that they do. I mean, that's the varying degrees, because some bands actually don't even do that. But take all that time, and then when it comes to like the visual representation of the band, they're like, well, have somebody do something, put something together, bam, there it is. And it's like, why? It just seems like...
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. It doesn't feel right. Like, it has to be like, at the end of the day, it has to be like a relatively complete representation of what your band is. And you even want the visuals of whether, logo, or just the way the name of your band is written, how it's written, what font you use, what it looks like, what the color is, what imagery goes with it. You want it to be something you connect with. And I don't know why some bands are just like, blop.
So let me ask you this then. So do you think the visuals have to be consistent with the sound? Meaning, so let's say if your band is like, it sounds pointillistic, does the artwork have to be pointillistic as well?
No.
Does that make sense?
Like, I just think, you can go that route if you feel that it's necessary, that every single aspect of the band is it's like a unified front, from the visuals to the sound to the way the show works, to what you wear when you get on stage. There's bands that do that, and more power to them. Like, I'm not even gonna take that extreme or like total approach where it's just like all of it has to have this vibe, it has to carry across this vibe. Just something that feels enough that it's pleasing enough to you that are like, I'm not mad at this. You can look at it and you're like, yeah, this feels okay to me. This feels right by me. It doesn't feel like something that I look at it and I cringe and I'm like, why is this what's put out there when it comes to visually representing what I'm doing with the music? I mean, that's good enough. But yeah, if you want to go the extra mile, which why not? Sure. It really depends on what you're after.
Just shooting from the hip, who are some bands or musicians that you think have like a well thought out visual package?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question, actually. It's a good question. Let me think about it for a second. I have to access like the almost like the memory banks, like going through the files in my head through the library, like what I think looking at, and there's probably a few. For some reason, even though I don't think they took great care into doing it, and then again, I'll never know because I don't get to ask those people. I don't have access unless, I was to send off a question on Facebook. This Heat to me always felt like it was a package. But then again, it's historically far enough removed where it's almost like their music feels, although it feels modern enough, even if you listen to today, it sounds super current. And I feel it'll always feel that way. Their music, something about how the quality of their music feels that way. But visually, I don't know, like the artifact feels, it feels total, but I don't know if that's a good example to me for my. Maybe there's something I'm trying to think. It's a weird question to answer because a lot of it is to how much you like are obsessed with a particular band. So a lot of the aspects that even outside the music, you mythologize in the way you engage with that band, or the way even if you just somebody brings the name up of a certain band and you start like all these pictures start coming to mind. For me, an easy one too is Captain Beefheart. Just the way they dressed, like some of the artwork. If I think of a Traum-esque replica, it just feels like, it makes sense. That's. I'm trying to think. Once from a purely aesthetic. I think I'll give him a lot of credit too. Actually, in a lot of things, I could give him a lot of credit. I feel that, like Weasel's Flying Lutzenbacher stuff.
Yeah, Weasel
has
Walter.
that, and he does the artwork. And
really?
And he's never pawned it off to anybody else. Like he does, and he tends to do a lot of it himself.
Yeah.
A lot of aspects of the music putting on himself and all that. But even just some of the record covers that are just drawings that he does. Like simple drawings, a lot of like grid structures and like simplified automaton-like figures. It just something about it, and the choice of colors, like bold colors, few colors, it just feels right. I don't know. You know what? It was visual stuff I really like. And I don't know if it necessarily represents a band, although it kind of does because it's so like austere, and their sound is kind of that, or was more so than it is now because they just go into all this melodic stuff too as well. But Car Bomb, I really like what Car Bomb stuff looks like. You can tell that there's a designer handling that, and the designer that like has managed to keep like a visual identity throughout their output. The US Maple stuff. But the US Maple stuff from the second record on, I'm not a huge fan of
What was the second record? Sang Fat Editor, right?
From that record on, I really love their choices, and I think on some of them, the last one, Purple on Time, is an actual painting. So I'm assuming they came across it, and they decided, that we want that to be the cover. US Maple's visual aesthetic works for me. The first one, yeah, I'm not. I don't know. It's just a collage. I like the color choices, the collage, but yeah, I'm not fond of that cover. I think the music in that record is far better than what, at least personally, I imagine it to sound like if I just looked at the cover.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, the other covers, I'm like, ooh, this is gonna be interesting, you know. So, those are the ones I can think of now. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think. There's got to be other ones, though. There's got to be other ones. This is a question I could think about for a while. I'm really not too fond of, like, it's funny because this just happened, or I happened to think about it briefly this morning, you know, scrolling to my Facebook feed. And, you know, sometimes people post, it'll be like a collage pictures of record covers that it's sort of stats of what they've been listening to for the past month. Mm-hmm. So it should, you know, this gets the most plays. You know, some you know, I don't know if iTunes does it or Spotify when you get the stats of what you've been listening. And this person listened to a lot of like metal, varying degrees of like from abstract to like, you know, slam metal or whatever.
Is it a person that I know? Just curious.
Say it again.
Is it a person I know that you're talking about?
You might know him through Facebook.
All right.
But it's not. Yeah, you might know him through Facebook, but it's not somebody you personally know. And it's the same for me. Like I only barely know this person. You know, on Facebook, it's easy to be anyone's friend. And I just some of the aesthetic on some of that stuff. Like I found when you see enough of the covers and you start seeing the recycled cliches, it just really kind of watch it becomes like not only redundant, like it's diminishing returns. How does any of this like feel evocative anymore? And not to mention the logos, like never been a fan of those logos, the illegible, like yeah, I'm not a fan, man.
Yeah, metal is very, I mean, as someone who grew up in heavy music, it's when you look at like the genre specific signifiers, it really starts to self-parody like very quickly in terms of like skull and crossbones or like the black metal like type that's like illegible.
Yeah, for sure. I love to like when you get across like you know, specific subgenres of metal, like the covers, even the imagery used start to look the same. You get like the zombies butchering somebody, like a subgenre of images. Yeah. You get this like post-apocalyptic like scenery where like it's really dark and there's some like gothic looking building center in the background and lava is flowing from the side, stuff like that. And I'm just like, okay, this looks the same. I expected the music is gonna sound like every other band doing this type of thing. There are obviously exceptions, but yeah, I don't know. But I listen to that. I listen to some of that music, and some I'm very fond of. There are bands that, and we won't go into details there, but there's a few bands that I'm actually really fond of in the genre. That I wish their record covers and the presentation on that side, because I think the stage presentation they like take great care of. I think you'll immediately understand what I'm talking about once I say that. Well, I'll make this example because it's kind of like a safe one. Like Portal, I wish the record covers were more interesting, but I love the music and I love the stage presentation. That's like a package and it feels spot on. It's actually beautiful in its own way.
You've never seen Portal, right?
Oh God, I never have. I'd love. They do tour.
Yeah, but it's not frequent because
not frequent. And I think the last time they came to the States, they like only did like East Coast or even just New York, or they'll do like a big festival date, and then they'll just shove off. And yeah, that's a band I love to see live because I'm curious to see how some of their sound translates. And I remember reading an interview from someone that recorded one of their albums. And actually
I think we read the same thing. Colin Marston.
Yeah, they said it's not. You would think it's like, oh, did they use specific settings? It's like it's how they play. It's what they do. They have it dialed down to a science because he could. Like I think he was saying, and I'm paraphrasing this interview, I picked up the same guitars and I tried it didn't sound that way. It did not.
So I think when, I forget which Colin Marston band played with Portal, but they used like their backline.
Yeah.
And then he got to learn that no, it's the playing. It's not special pedals or like modeling amps or whatever.
And I think the more time as a musician you spend playing, like I think you come to realize like soon enough that a lot of what makes music distinctive is in the fingers, so to speak. This for string players. It could be, depending on what instrument it is. It's in the fingers. It's in the feet, and it's in the ideas behind it. Like sometimes you can give somebody like really crappy, like broke down equipment, but if their aesthetic and their ideas and their, I'm not even gonna say chops. It's just their individual approach is like sound enough. It'll translate. And it might not translate optimally, but it'll translate. That's what really is necessary.
So you're trying to tell me that my $1,000 in pedals are not going to make me a better player? I want to hear that, man.
For sure. I mean, I've like invested in the past few years in pedals, but it's all been, trying to like, let's see if I can add this specific range, extra range to what I do that is maybe not normally accessible, or this specific effect that I can only really get in a studio environment. Let's see if I can get in a live environment in a room. Essentially with pedals, the more you toy with pedals, I feel you're just trying to recreate what you would have access in a studio when you work with stuff in post. Yeah. And you're trying to get into a room. And that's all there is to it. But I actually admire people that decide to do away with all that. And in this day and age, it's hard to take that stance because you'll see people resistant to it. Well, it's just music. As long as whatever it is, however it's processed, it's what you want it to sound like, what you want it to represent. But I do admire people that are like, this is the instrument I'm playing, and I'm just going to deal with what I can do with instrument regardless of what extra accoutrements I attach to it to make extra sounds. Just relying on skill and ideas. I'm a big fan of that. But, like anybody else, I've succumbed to like, it's in this year, it's 2020. There's so many different strands of music, and people are making music using completely like electronic means to call up the sounds or to tweak the sounds. So what can I do to put my stake in some of that sound environment or the sound research field? That's all that it is to it. It's just kind of like, am I falling short by just playing a bass or a guitar or regular drums now? Sometimes it feels that way. Other times it's just like, I don't know. I think if you work hard enough, if you think about it, you want to get certain sounds, a lot is achievable even without them. I do believe that. But, I'm saying this, and I have like my chain right now, it's like 10 pedals.
When back in your earlier days, it was maybe 3, 4?
My standard for like the past 2 bands that played live shows was 3. That's it. So I've like augmented in the past few years by 7 extra.
And then the 3 were what, the distortion, pitch like shift, and then the loop?
It was like a more like an overdrive to like bump up.
Yeah.
To just like gritty up the sound and bump it up in the mix. Because I've always played pretty like crappy like secondhand basses.
Oh yes,
it's kind of like a crime that I never invested in something solid. Which I got a side story with that. Like that's recent. That it's like a shame. I was about to invest in a solid one, but then things happen. I'm like, I gotta put this on the back burner for a bit. But anyhow, going back to my point. So an overdrive. A pitch shifter, because the whole thing expanded the range, and I've always been like a fan of, by choice, but also by circumstances, of trying to access guitar range with a bass, because I've always been a fan of bands that have 2 guitars, and somehow I always find myself in a situation where I've been stuck with having one, and it just pissed, to this day, like the last band practice argument I've had to like plays into this. There's so much in my musical life could have been way smoother if I had been in bands with access to 2 guitar players that actually happen to work right together in the context, whether right musically or in terms of personality and compatibility on any level. But I've never had the luck, so for now I gotta make do with what I have. So second pedal is a pitch shifter, which I mostly used to go anywhere in between an octave up to 2 octaves up. And a loop pedal, because like every other moron, I'm like, oh, I like to keep that little, bit of textural thing behind under like groove, or I like to set up a groove and play counterpoint to it. So that's because, but again, that felt like a necessity to me, because I've always been like, just one guitar is not enough. So that's it. That's really why. And that's the answer.
So let's circle back though. What was your first band? Was it Endure?
Oh yeah, I told you about that.
Yeah.
I don't even consider that was my band. Like let me put it this way.
And, first, describe the music of Endure.
Yeah. All right. So the music is the most simplistic, moronic, knuckle dragging, like breakdown heavy. Well, like all the breakdowns are like chugging on an open E.
Yeah.
And verses that are like just some really super basic melodic thing that hovers between hardcore and metal, and maybe really as any business trying to play hardcore at best, but somehow wants to think itself capable of like approaching the more like, how should I put it? The more fundamental sound, rhythmic strengths of like metal, but it didn't have no
Around
business doing
what
it.
year was this?
God, it's so long ago. Like, it's honestly one of those episodes in my life that is more like a funny anecdote.
Yeah.
So like, I want to say it was sometime in the 90s, man.
So like high school age?
Yeah.
All right.
So and I had, back, this was before the internet, right? This was before the internet, so I can put it that way. At least I didn't have access to the internet.
So we're talking about like what era of the 90s? Mid, late?
Yeah, I want to say mid. I want to say like mid to mid. Yeah, like 94, 95, maybe 96. Like,
I asked because like I know that you love Deadguy and Fixation on a Coworker.
I wasn't aware of those
came out in
bands all that
95.
much.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of the bands to that degree. At the point when this is how it happened. I've been playing bass for like a brief amount of time. I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like, I know a little bit more of what I'm doing now, but definitely back then I had no idea what I was doing. But I knew enough where I think I could like just keep to like, hold something down with a drummer and then maybe toy around with the basics of what's going on. So, I just finding my way, right? So I'm like, I like heavy music, but I also like music that's a little bit weird. But more, I just wanted to be. I was sick of just like playing in my room and learning songs by bands I liked, or like jamming with like a drummer or a guitarist in a room with no end in sight, where it didn't seem like, oh, this ever gonna be a band. So I started looking around. So people get bored sometimes, and back in those days before the internet, where they could go on Facebook and like reach outside their circles, people used to put up flyers in like coffee shops or like record stores, or movie rental places, where like, band looking for whatever musician, fill in the blanks. Well, we have songs, our influences are this, and this. We have practice space, we're looking into this, and that. And their influences, they had a large list. All dealt mostly with hardcore and certain like the basic unassailable like giants of like metal. That if you like metal, it's like there's no way I'm not gonna like this. Like the Slayers, the Metallicas, and all that. I was like, okay. I mean, this could be interesting. They had enough bands that I had heard of, because I started getting into like the hardcore where I was aware of bands like, which at the time, I feel, so I guess this will date it. At the time, bands like the straight edge bands like Hurt Crisis.
Okay, yeah.
Or you had like the bands like the hardcore / Slayer worshippers like Integrity were like a huge deal. Deadguy was definitely active at that time, but I feel like they were like a footnote still until they
I agree.
and people caught on.
Yeah.
They were like, this was amazing. So I just barely discovered that guy. And I think, as a matter of fact, I might have discovered Kiss a Goodbye before I discovered that guy.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And it was purely like, again, back then you read zines and the descriptions sound like, the description of Kiss a Goodbye was something along the lines, if you like this band and that band, and the 3 points were like Neurosis, Black Flag, and I forget what the other one was. this is the band you've been wanting to listen
That's
to
a
all
pretty
your
good.
life.
That's a pretty good list.
All your life.
I'd be like,
And
yeah, what
especially
does that
for back
sound
then,
like?
When that's I didn't become the jaded asshole that I listened to enough music. I was like, oh, Neurosis or Black Flag. Who gives a fuck? Back then I was like, oh, this sounds cool. And I remember buying the tape and be like, oh my god, this is the best shit ever. But anyhow, so yeah, I saw this ad, right? And I answered it, and they were looking for a bass player. So I show up. I actually got a ride from somebody, like a friend of mine. I didn't have a car back then. I relied on friends to like drive me everywhere. Like I'd be like, hey, exchange of favors, that kind of shit. I'm not exchanging favors like that either.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But so, and I show up, and it's like 4 kids, and everybody is like, how can I put it? Like, I mean, it's gonna sound presumptuous to me to say, but like, I felt that like, okay, the songs they're playing are basic. I could be down with this if eventually they start to explore, more stuff in the realms that you can explore in like aggressive music. You could toy with rhythm. You could toy with like the amount of dissonance, the interplay. I mean, there's a bunch of shit. I don't want to even start that conversation. But they were playing these songs, and I was like, okay, cool. They already booked. They prepared to book like a short tour. That was the selling point for me. I remember now. I was like, oh, sweet. I get to like I learned their set, which was like 4 or 5 songs. I could get to play in front of people. This could be like the first time I play a show in my life. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna do this. The whole time that I'm doing this, the more I get to see. You get in a room with people. And then once you start getting the lay of the land, what everybody does on what everybody's capabilities, what are just as a musician, but also is like how they approach the music from like
you're seeing how they think and what they're physically capable
and how they put things, how their entire process goes. Started seeming more and more, this is going to be really redundant and basic, isn't it?
So even that early on.
Yeah, even that early on. But I was like, fine, I'll do this. Then before like a week into like, this whole process took less than a month, by the way. This whole thing takes less than a month. The preparation, doing so I remember learning the songs. It literally took me like one afternoon on my own with the tape to be
Your
like,
quick study.
I mean, it was basic. Seriously, I cannot tell you like, and okay. Now see, this is so long ago. I'm starting to remember stuff more and more. I remember learning songs, and I'm like, I got the basics, right? So I show up, and there are 2 guitar players, a drummer, and a singer. So here are the man, this is so bad. So there were so many warning signs. So you have 2 guitar players, one handling the most basic chug rhythms you can possibly think of.
Well, the chugs are important. You can't.
Yeah, they're important.
That.
I understand that they're like integral to that type of music.
So then, how about the second guitar player?
The second guitar player was doing 75% of the time that, maybe like just an octave, a fifth, or a step apart, depending on what the song called for. And I'm even giving him too much credit. I think there was a lot of doubling up. And sometimes we play basic melodies that weren't really solos, that to deviate to legitimize the fact that there were 2 guitars. Otherwise it'd be like, what is the point?
So you think even though they had 2 guitars, it still lacked multi-dimensionality?
Yeah. The drummer, I think comparatively, the drummer was the most, he's solid. I think he knows what he's doing, but it was still kind of, in hindsight, I could say like, but back then for me, I was like, okay, I can deal with this for what the music, what it is. And the singer was still an X factor to me because I hadn't seen like most of the initial rehearsals that took place over 2 weeks. Were like with the instrumentalists and not with the singer so much. But I started noticing and running songs. These are people that have written the songs. The rhythm guitar player had this weird kind of. It wasn't my place to get enraged, but if it was my band, I would have become. He had this habit where, like, he would like skip measures altogether. Just really forget where he was and just land somewhere else in the song before anyone else had gotten there. Okay, this is
how
gonna
old
be
were
good.
these guys? Were they also high school age?
Yeah, like I feel they were also high school or early college,
Okay.
Early college. And
they're losing place in like a chug 4/4 hardcore
yeah,
song?
one of them particularly. The main culprit was the rhythm guitarist. And And it was also the most vocal about a lot of aspects of it. A lot of aspects being that, like, the band had to be represented as a straight edge band. I mean, honestly.
And so did you X up?
No, absolutely. And this is part of the story. I told you the story. You're familiar enough with the story. There's so many ridiculous things about it. Where when people get involved in music to forward like a specific allegiance to a lifestyle that doesn't necessarily involve like forwarding an allegiance to like a representative creative sound or a creative sonic representation of the lifestyle, it seems silly, man. Like I'm not interested in being the main feature of this band being like, we're straight edge, and who cares where the music lands? As long as we're a straight edge band, it's like, oh, we're straight edge, here is some bullshit. You know what I mean? That's what it was like. That's what it was like. And so the other unnerving thing to me very early on, the first practice once I was I was like, okay, I learned the songs. I was playing in pretty bare bones, like sticking to writing the E and also moving, the notes around as it was called for. Then I made according to the measure skipper, I made the mortal mistake or introducing like octave notes and fifths and like arpeggios into my playing. It was like,
so you broke away from the bass tracing.
Yeah.
How dare you?
The guy in particular was like, that's all fine and dandy, but is there any chance you could just stick to the, and without saying it out loud, I don't know what he meant, writing the E. Is that really the best thing that the bass can do in this? Like, really even going an argument, I was like, this to make it more interesting for me. But then he was like, yeah, but, in not these few words, he said, but we wrote the song. I specifically put him down. I feel like he was the main catalyst behind the band. Like,
he was the creative mind of the band.
The creative quote unquote mind. And then the other people were like just embellishers to the basic structure or quote unquote songs that he brought in. And so this guy was like, can you just stick to the basics and just stay, lock in with the drums? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing that, but I also can do this while I do that. It was like, yeah, I don't know that you need to do that. Like, I prefer that you didn't. And I was like talking to myself in my head. I was like, ooh, this is not going to be good.
No go.
I already knew. Long story short, because I could go talk about this at length. We went on this tour where we played 2 or 3 cities, and I literally feel we were one of the worst bands on every single bill, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions. And the bad habit of this one particular guy that I mentioned reared its ugly head on a couple of those shows, and one in particular where he literally skipped an entire verse. In a live situation, where doing something that major, where it's just a bunch of measures, it's like, how do you there's no way even an untrained ear can see and hear like, ooh, that just was not.
Well, maybe
good.
He was trying to develop improvisational hardcore, and you just weren't hip to it.
I think he just sucked really bad. He just sucked really bad, and he got really. He was one of those guys that get really nervous, which I understand when they get on stage, but also have no ability or not enough confidence to rely on what they learned or what they've memorized to carry them through it. And that's, I feel when you forget things, it can happen, but when you forget things that you've been training, practicing to do in a live situation where you have to try, at least attempt to be at your best, it's just a sign of the fact that you're letting the pressure of the situation. It's hard for you to ride the wave. You can't get, this is going to sound like hippy dippy or whatever. You can't get in the zone. Like it's easy to play those songs even if you fumble, and to pull it off and carry it off if you're in the zone. If you're really, when in that situation, you're a manifestation of what the song is supposed to be doing at a particular point in time. That's it. Accidents happen. People forget things. But something like that where you skip an entire part of the song, several measures, especially something that's simple, it's just a sign that this is something you should not be doing. I mean, this is gonna sound harsh, but it's something you should still be in your room, even without a band, just in your room, not even woodshedding, just basic, just learning how to write measures and count things properly, and stuff like that. So that shit happened.
So maybe not ready for prime time.
No, not at all. This guy was not ready to just play guitar in a band. It was that bad. I mean, on top of this, they were all very nice guys, you know. Like, I had no issues with them personally. I didn't know them long enough. And I was, you know, when you initially meet me, I'm not the type of verbal diarrhea guy that I am once I get to know a person.
Yes.
At first, I'm very, like, reserved. Some, like, you mistake it even for shy. I just, like, take my time to get kind of the lay of the land on the interaction with the people before I release. And, I feel free to, like, just be myself. I don't know. It's just the way I've always been. So I was so enraged by some of this. And even though, like, you know, I should have been, you know... I was a fucking teenager, though. Like, I should have been grateful. Well, at least I had an opportunity to play in front of people. But the whole ordeal was embarrassing to me because I remember sound checks when, you know, sometimes, especially when you're young, you plug in the sound check and you're like testing your instruments. So I would like, especially like that, I've never been in front of people at sound check. I would start showing off like all the things that I practice at home instead of like to be like, oh, you know, I'm going to do like a little arpeggio.
You're doing your little Van Halen intros.
And I would, you know, when people are waiting for a band to play sometimes at DIY shows and the crowd starts to gather. And I literally remember seeing a band that I just played. Some of the musicians in that band, during the sound check, I started doing my like fucking teenage show-offy thing. And they pull closer to the stage, the sign of like, you know, when you're at a show, you see people pull close to the stage. The first thing you can think of, oh, this is going to be interesting or this is going to be good. Halfway into the first song, these people were gone. Nowhere in sight. This is how fucking embarrassing this was.
You guys you were frequently walking the room and having them leave.
Yeah. It was just like the music was just below average, performed below average. The singer, like a couple of shows, one show halfway into the second song, literally lost his voice because he couldn't handle just, you know, screamy or a guttural things that he was trying to pull off. And he just had not trained himself to have the stamina to carry that for like 4 or 5 songs. He couldn't make it past 2 hardly.
What are you talking about? You just pick up a mic and scream. It's easy.
No, it's not. Apparently, it's not. I mean, I don't know. I never tried to do it for a full song, and I could never claim that. But if
screamer,
you
though.
I feel that if you choose that what your role is going to be, you have to train yourself to be able to carry it off. And if you can't do that, I mean, just the whole thing, you know, even all the extra facets of the story, it was a fucking shit show. And on the ride back, I didn't speak to anybody. I literally, the ride back from whatever it was, 5-6 hours, whatever it was, I was sitting in the back of the car pretending I wasn't there. And I know that's shitty, but like the whole thing was disappointing beyond belief. I didn't think it was going to be the best thing ever, but it was like, God, I think it put the seed in my head. It's like, if I have to be in a band, it has to be, and this will, you know, you haven't interacted with me, it'll make you understand that if I have to be in a band, it has to be something that I have to control to some degree. Like, I cannot have it be outside my control to some degree, because it runs the chance of being a complete shit show, and I don't want to be a part of that shit. I really don't.
So how did you get from Endure to Inchi? What was the gap between those bands like? How long was that?
It felt like it was long. Like any gap between bands, if you rely, like, you know, I people that spent a lot of their time playing music or trying to play music, trying to write music, trying to be in bands. Like, if you have any downtime where they're not in a band, even though, you know, you could fill it with life to whatever degree you can, you just miss it. And it feels like that part of you, it feels like a limb or some like big, like important organism inside of you is just lacking or hasn't been intended to. So I don't know, years wise, like I haven't like kept track or like documented some of this stuff very well, but I just know it felt forever. And in between, like I never stopped, you know, like, you know, would answer ads or get in the room with people and try this and try that. You know, sometimes you get in a room with people, we play a few times, it doesn't work. Sometimes you do it for months, it doesn't work, it never gets anywhere. Sometimes you can even do it for years and nothing ever comes to fruition. But I feel that like with Inchi, I had started playing, I had been in a band that never even got to play shows with the guitarist, where I started dealing with some of the music I was interested in at the time. Like I was interested in stuff like Deadguy, Kiss It Goodbye. Those were my big go-to I also like, just basic cheesy bands that like people in the 90s in high school can relate to. They're also, there's some value to the music that they do. I'm not going to send you on a soapbox and I'm being too big for it. I still like some of what the Deftones do. They're a very solid band at what they do. So I like that stuff. And a bunch of other shit. So the guitarist was, Bill.
Bill.
We were in this band together that was kind of trying to synthesize that stuff, but also like, he likes metal and I like the Deftones. And the drummer was into the Jesus Lizard. The drummer was into the Jesus Lizard. Not the drummer for me, the drummer of this band before. At the same time, I think I started falling into this rabbit hole that I'm pretty sure I can track back to Evan and opened up when I first discovered somebody, I read somewhere about him, or the band, the St. Louis band Dazzling Killmen.
Dazzling Killmen.
I feel that Dazzling Killmen changed everything for me, because when I heard that band, I was a fan of like aggressive music, but I also liked music that was like limber rhythmically, and in that, being a bass player, I liked listening to bass players that were active in the mix, that were making interesting choices other than just pushing just the power.
Who's the bass player for Dazzling Killmen?
Darin Gray is
that's right.
Also the bass player for Grand Ulena. And he's played a bunch of other stuff. He's playing a lot. I feel like he's playing a lot of like free form, like creative improvisational music now in several contexts. I don't know if he's got a regular gig or anything, but if you look through his discography, there's a lot that he's done. But most people still remember him, at least the rockist people, which I think I fall into the category. No matter how much I wanna pretend that I have some sort of aspiration towards music that doesn't deal with rock. I'm like kind of like a rock dude that's just moving around the box a little and fucked with it. But Darin Gray, like, big influence. But I discovered them and I was like, this blends aggressive music with kind of like jazz leanings and like a very active rhythm section. It also has like a lot of textural, like playing with the guitars. It has a vibe. It's hard to pin down. You can't really call this hardcore. You can't call it metal. It's definitely not jazz, but you can hear a lot of different things being thrown into the pot. And for somebody that still, and I still do, has a lot of affinity for like, music. The thing aggressive music does, it's like it appeals to certain parts of someone's personality, but also it's like it's a jolter. Aggressive music just
it's got that emotional, visceral sense,
there's
right?
that, and it's a jolter. If you ever like get too relaxed in your life, or there's some issue, and then you feel some sort of like, it's good to have like an outlet, especially if you rely on music as part of your daily diet to live. It's like a big part of what just you listen to music on a daily basis, or it's like a big part of you. Like having that outlet, like music that just jolts you and gives you like an adrenaline shot, or just like pushes you, so it throttles you around. I've always like add that to some degree. It's a little bit less now, and it's definitely more specific. As the more you listen to music, the more you play music, I feel like your tastes get more specific. At least for me, they have. But yeah, like discovering that band was like, so it's possible to do music that's both aggressive, but it doesn't have to be metal, and have to have the like, which I still like, the horrible like singing cliches and imagery cliches that sometimes metal music gets sandbagged with. To me, it's like it's a weird albatross. Like it works for some band, in others it feels like almost like it's just this is a means to an end. And with them, it just felt like, at the time when I heard it, it felt like this new thing that hit a lot of like pleasure centers for what I like to hear, and also targets even in the way I thought about music maybe should possibly be. And they had been doing it. I was like, oh yes, like I could finally. And also, speaking from the perspective of a bass player, hearing Darin Gray playing to some of their music, like, yes, I can play to heavy music and not have to be this drum machine on bass where I have to just like
tracing
pound away
guitar.
To bass drum and tracing the guitar. I can just move around.
So it really opened up the doorway for you, what you could do on
not
bass.
Even open up, like I was aware that this was something that needed to be done and was being done, but like they just was hearing that band was like the validation, and it was more like, there is no way I'm gonna play in a band, even if it's aggressive and heavy, and I'm just gonna stick to the basic box. If it's called for certain parts, if you want to pound an idea into the ground and make it feel like primeval, massive, there's something to be said for really repetitive, monolithic parts where you need something that's just strong, simple, and just pushing those frequencies and pounding away almost like an extra bass drum with distortion caked on top of it. It's all fine. I understand that. But for the way I am and kind of the person that I'm kind of restless in a variety of ways, and I tend to be twitchy and fidgety. I like activity, the limber, just the way I process things seems to be on separate strands. The way when you're walking outside and walking around, there's traffic, you have to deal with this, you have to deal with that. In general, I mean, it's been kind of the way I always like listening to music. I like stuff that has just a variety of layers happening at once, where you have to kind of negotiate the listening experience, and then it's not super spoon-fed. Well, I appreciate music that does that. There's a lot of music that does that, where it's everybody is kind of chained to one specific thing that they're pounding, and it's great. But for me, give me stuff that it's just where you have 2, 3, 4, 5 people, they're just sort of dancing and bobbing and weaving around each other that. It just the sort of experience I live for musically, when I can listen to a record or watch a band, and I just sort of, my focus has to shift when I'm negotiating what they're doing, and I have to try to put some work in understanding what's going on. And I might like it or not like it, but I'm not sure why. I just love when that happens. And the unsuccessful mission so far has been to try and reproduce that to some degree in the music that I do on whatever level. That's it. Just I like that. I like multi-sensory, not even multi-sensory, multi-strand experience. I like to just be overwhelmed sometimes.
Yeah. Speaking of multi-sensory, your playing is very physical and there's a strong visual component to it. I remember hearing after many a Spaniard show, dude, did you see that Spaniard bass player? I've never seen him play bass like that. Do you worry about losing that visual component on a recording?
That's something you can't really do anything about. Recording, I feel like the recording and the live experience are two separate things. And then maybe, again, I don't think this is a hard and fast rule that anybody should follow. It's just what happens to work for me when it does work, or what I happen to believe in. But a recording, maybe you put more care into having the details being fully evident. And the sonic, God, I don't want to use that word. It sounds super pompous, but the sonic tapestry, you want to be able to hear everything clearly, how the frequencies are separated and all that. So I think that could carry a recording. And if the music is strong enough and the ideas behind it are strong enough, they'll carry too. But the live, I like how by default that's add the extra visceral experience and the extra curiosity to how some of this music, in order to be performed, the players have to access this particular mode of interacting with their instrument, to making it happen. I think that shit's great. I love seeing, when I see bands that are doing that, when somebody is doing something, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I love that. And I don't think I made a conscious decision to do that, but having listened to enough stuff and having watched enough stuff, in a live situation or whatever, to see a live performance on YouTube or something, I'm like, yeah, man, that stuff, and that stuff connects with me. And if I go back, when I was literally trying to get to make every single show that Grand Ulena played in Chicago, that's what I got out of Darin Gray. There was the playing solid, the fundamentals, but there was this weird showmanship that came with how he was playing, what he was playing, and just kind of is the flair, almost the spiciness of it. It just immediately spoke to me. It wasn't even I have to do that. Again, being given permission, it's yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this. And so that's it. This doesn't make sense. I already had those tendencies, but seeing that, that's why, it's weird between Dazzling Killmen and Grand Ulena. Darin Gray has been a catalyst for a lot of shit in my musical life. It's weird to even acknowledge it, but it's true.
Did you ever have the chance to talk to Darin Gray?
A couple of email exchanges.
Wow.
And like a couple of email exchanges where I was like, fanboying and just asking him one in retrospect, a ludicrous question that it's like, come on, man, some of this, like everybody deals with it differently because as a musician, you're still also an individual.
Do you remember like your most embarrassing fanboy question?
I really don't, but I do know. But I do know that his answers, a couple of them was like something along the lines of like, everybody is different and like kind of approaches certain things differently. So in the end, you have to do what works best for you or feels most honest to do what you do. But he was also like very appreciative. I remember the first email that I sent where it was like, man, something along the lines. And I could probably call some of this stuff back and find it on some of the servers, some of the old emails. Where he was like, this made my day. Like, I don't get this type of thing where somebody tells me, like, watching you play or listen to one of your records changed the way I process music, changed the way I play. Like, you just made me all day. It was like, wow, thank you. Like, I wish, this is the kind of email that I wish I could get every day. So, like, anything else that was going on in my life, I would still feel, okay, this is good. I'm okay because,
You brightened up his day.
Yeah, somebody is recognizing that, like, the work I put in, somebody's appreciating, somebody's watching, somebody's paying attention. I'm not doing this just for I mean, it's great. You should still do it for yourself. But, nobody's going to sit there and tell you that they're not going to appreciate some external validation.
Everyone likes a compliment.
Yeah, everybody does. It's nice. Like, think about how some people, and we're not even just going to talking about music here, but you could think about all sorts of things. Think about anybody in real life would appreciate or their day would be better if they toil after something. It could be like a menial job, and somebody that works with them, whether it be a boss or even somebody that works with them, I really appreciate what you do. Great job. Like this, thank you. You make this work environment better. That whole deal, like it's just instantly, it's nice to be recognized for what you spend time doing. Otherwise sometimes I feel like, God, man, like, next question.
No, I like talking to you because I could just let you run the motor, and it's. I don't have to do anything.
And that's the thing I was saying before. Like we've known each other long enough where it's easy to.
Yeah.
It's easy. If it was.
And that's why you're the first guest.
Yeah. I lost. Like I went in a wide enough circle where I'm not really quite sure where I'm at now. So take me back to the center, or you can ask some other questions, whatever you have in mind.
So there's like a definite through line in your work in terms of multi-dimensionality and, for lack of a better term, complexity, right? So like when you have different projects, let's say Spaniard versus Nonzoo, like how do you differentiate what the like organizing principles are?
Well, honestly. And this has been something that like I struggle with a lot, because it's going on right now. Like a lot of it is, and we've talked about this because, being in a band, sometimes you have to deal with this. I assume everybody does, even the people that are lucky enough to get to play with exactly the type of players or people they want to play with. Like that happens for some people. Sometimes you grow into it, but other times it's work. It's like any relationship, you have to put work into it. But to answer your question, you kind of have to figure out how you can get your ideas best represented or carried through and across by the people you're playing with somehow, and if they're not able to, you have to figure out why or how they could, or you have to find other people. I know this sounds terrible, but for me it's big reality. Or even the dog is like, this is sad, don't talk about this stuff.
Yeah, my dog Ham is sad.
Well, you find, like, I think playing with different people also hopefully brings different aspects out of a person's playing. And also, like, I think, like anybody else, if you listen to enough variety of music, depending on what what you gravitate towards musically, what just really pleases you to listen to, or what you're drawn towards, right? You feel that, like, sometimes it's hard to, like, there's not, like, throwing all your eggs in one basket. You're going to do this one band that represents every single facet of what you like to be represented as a musician or somebody that makes music, right? Sometimes you just focus, for different bands, you focus on one aspect of what's been like leading up to that particular project, what you've been wanting to investigate. It's like blocking off a corner of what you're interested in and being like, oh, we're going to deal with this corner right now. And then maybe another project, it's like, it's still gonna be in that same pit or in that same yard, but like we're gonna move a little bit southwest or just like a quadrant over this way or like.
So what were you trying to explore with Nonzoo then?
like I just compared, like I think compared to Spaniard, I just started listening to a lot. In between, I feel like I started listening to a lot of African music, for lack of a better word, but almost music that dealt a lot with like polyrhythms and a lot of drumming, and music that dealt with like just a buoyancy and kind of like a funkiness that was earthy though, and not so much like slick funk. I started getting into like, and we were talking about the hoodie. I started listening to like Lizzy, Mercier, Descloux, which was some reason like I should have been aware of her music a long time before I was. It was like a blind spot that was recovered somehow. And then also like like anybody else who's heard enough music that it's, somehow it's managed to become like iconic. Like I was aware of Talking Heads, but at some point I really glommed on like psychically and even like from like falling in love with like the album Remaining Light, which is like
it's
their
best, no question.
On, like Fela type music, right? But the way the twitchiness involved with their like upbringing, their aesthetics, and some of the ingredients, the whole mixture of ingredients really for some reason at a particular point in time spoke to me. But I was also like, I have big allegiance to like the type of even though I play bass, I'm also sucker for prioritizing like a specific approach and sound to guitar playing, because I think I'm one of those people, maybe, like, who knows, I don't know what the diagnosis is, but I might be like a bassist that is actually like what's the word I'm looking for?
You have the guitar envy.
Yeah, you got it. I was about to land on something exactly like that. Yeah, I do it. I don't know why I never took the time to like really get as enough proficiency in the guitar as I have managed to do on bass. That's like a mistake that I think can still be repaired, but it has to be my initiative. But long story short, again, just like I think it was like after Spaniard, which was so like a lot of it was abrasive, but also had like this like dissonant, this gray tone where they're not there's not a lot of melody involved. It's more about like sharp, rhythmic assault, and like textural, like this even cacophony. Well, to some people, to me, it's not, but it's very assaultive. It's abrasive. I just wanted something that started toying with like leaving a little bit of space and almost getting like to a listener or even the players getting some of the like
that body music vibe.
The body music. Yeah,
well, you wanted to feel it. Them hips.
I just wanted like the connection to type of like music that like was danceable without having to be like disco or like I'm no different than most people. If you could throw on some of that music, and even though I won't listen every day, the stuff that connects and you cannot explain it. So I just like I just like very rhythmic music that sometimes gets into the zone where it's like your hips and the back of your neck and your shoulders that get involved. Dance music. It's some of the earliest forms of music have to deal with dance. Like I don't know how far back it can be traced, but dancing around a fire.
Yeah, so you wanted noise rock disco.
Yeah, I just wanted like that primal energy of like body music involved with the dissonance attack of like, whether it be, I don't know, like weird mutant prog, like no wave shit that I've always somehow been drawn to, or like the the beef art guitar, where it's like specific. It's like a very specialized type of like tonal and rhythmic and metric exploration that happens in those type of voice. Stuff feels disjointed, but it's somehow still connected by the way it's arranged. That I just wanted to combine all those. I don't think it was very successful in terms of what the actual goal was and what it was able to carry across. But I don't know. I did what it was decent while it lasted. It was fun. Even that term is loaded because at bands there's always like certain things work, certain things don't work. I'm glad I did it. I'll put it that way.
So I recall the reception to Nonzoo being very enthusiastic. People really loved that band. And like,
I don't know why.
And Matt, the Nonzoo and Imelda drummer, like he always thinks that I'm being like a jagoff for like talking about how much people are into Nonzoo. So like in a nutshell, what happened to Nonzoo?
Dude, it's like so complicated. I think like like the easiest way I can put it, like the personalities were like different enough to where like the clashes weren't easily repairable and got in the way of making the music, which I think that stuff could be circumvented if people focus on the music more than they do on on having to forge like a personal bond. I think that stuff is necessary. It makes the music, can make the experience better and more pleasurable too. But if you lose sight of what you're trying to do as a goal, when you band together to do it, like, yeah, it's slippery slope from there. There was that, and I think like a couple of the people involved, it was really their first band experience, and so they were kind of newbies, and like a lot of the band might have been placed on like kind of what I wanted to try and accomplish out of it, and so the learning curve like got to be steep, and each successive song that was trying to be assembled, which is a bad habit that I have, out try to make it steeper where it has to be accomplished, like more notes, not even that, just more elements of understanding and like taking into account the choices that you're making them to come. It can't just be like, so it starts with like, oh, we're just making like I'll really oversimplify, we're just making like like a kind of a disco groove backbeat, and then just putting no wave guitars over it. The next song can be a disco backbeat, but it operates like using more polyrhythmic approaches, and maybe the guitars and bass over it don't necessarily always line up with it. A song after that, oh, what if we added this textural element? It's also good. It's stuff like that, and so you keep adding more. And for some people, it can be where like, oh, I have to take this into account. Like it's like more books get added to the library, or more like homework gets added to the pile. And I don't know if that was, I don't think it was a problem, but to me, like, I feel that like sunk it a little bit. And I know things that happen to people where there's also, you have to contend with life, some of the stuff, the curveballs that life throws at you. And some people get outside of the mindset where like the music is the primary thing they have to deal with. And also, like I said, the interactions, I think there were a lot of misunderstandings in the interactions that, I'll repeat myself, could have been circumvented if everybody kept in mind, but we're here trying to do this, or trying to accomplish this, which is making music, collection of songs, making records, trying to tour, the whole things that everything that band is supposed to try to do. That, and like sometimes I think that fell by the wayside really for really stupid reasons, and that sunk it eventually. So
now that like a few years have passed, I don't know exactly how many, do you think there would ever be a possibility of Nonzoo doing new material?
I mean, to me, like any project, and I can even take this like even further with like songs, I feel like a song is never finished, because even when you put a cap on it because you have to, then you'll go back and you're like, oh, there's this little part, I could have done this a little bit differently, or there could have been that. Like, you have to make a decision. I feel it's the same with like a project, especially if you feel that when you were doing, you didn't fully accomplish what you had set up to do. It leaves it in the back of your mind where it's like, if I get another crack at it, this is what I would try to do. But what complicates it is like, if you get into the same arena with the same people that were involved the first time, especially when some of the stuff that happened where things could get a little personal, and that and there were arguments amongst people. I think you have to repair some of the stuff, or at least get back to an understanding to where like, okay, why are we doing this again, and why do you want to do it? Are you sure if we do it again, you're going to be able to deal better with like what's necessary in order to make this work? I don't know, and that might be too simplistic, but that's my perception. I still would want to do it, but yeah, I don't know. And I don't know, like, I think something like that, as much I could sit here and say, oh, there was a lot I had to do. There was a lot I had to do in order for that band to work, and I had to drive the truck, the boat, whatever you want to do, in a lot of different strands of them. Also, I wouldn't have been able to do it if the other three people weren't involved. They had a lot to do with it, and they had a lot to do. A lot of their personality had to do with the way it ended up sounding too. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, yeah, like everybody would have to come to a place where they feel like they need it again in their life. You know what I mean?
Do people still ask you about Nonzoo?
Oh yeah, not as often. Like, I feel when we stopped playing the first year and a half, 2 years, like I was still getting like Facebook messages from people outside of town wanting to play shows with.
Oh man.
messages from people that we played shows with. When we're gonna play again? What's going on with the band? Messages just from random people. I really came across your record, like and I have random interactions. Less so now because the pandemic has made everything weird. It's just like interactions when it has to do with like music and playing shows. I feel like almost people have come to this sort of like silent understanding that it's like that shit's gonna have to wait.
Yeah.
That shit's gonna have to wait. People don't even really ask you. When that stuff was still going on, I would get emails that were like, what are you up to now? I don't get those now, which is fine.
Yeah.
You're left to your own devices and you do what you're supposed to do without having to respond to anybody about it. It's all good. But people are like, yeah, messages. There's some people that we know in common too. Once I can think of, there was like when this person heard that like Spaniard had rebanded. Oh man, that's really cool. I sure would be super excited if like Nonzoo was to do it. Do you know what I mean? It was like that, and I was like, I don't understand why people dug that band as much as they did. I understand some of it. It's like the whole body music thing somehow connected, and like how abrasive. And I keep seeing people when they post messages or people put their music on like Facebook groups. They're like, oh, it was so intense live. I think that kind of shit like sells music a lot of times if it feels like a visceral experience. And if you have a visceral experience coupled with like fun, it's hard to beat.
Yeah, it was a fun band.
Yeah, it's
like
hard to
watching people in the crowd. There's a lot of, you see people head nodding and feeling that groove.
Yeah. I just remember some shows people would like just try to, in their own fucking weird way, dance to this stupid shit. And I was like, good for you, man.
You guys brought the funk.
It's funny. It was funny. I liked it. I like it. I had this weird thing. I'm sure I'm not the only person that feels this way. It's hard for me to stay in the moment. Whenever I get anything done, like I have to start thinking about what else am I going to do with this, or how am I going to make it better. So like I wish it could go back with less of that mindset so I could have appreciated more back then and it just relax and letting it be. I think it could have been conducive even to that band lasting a little bit longer because
you had like enjoyed it more.
Yeah, but again, sometimes I felt that if I loosen the leash too much, it could go to shit. So that's the thing. I'm still trying to navigate that with current stuff now, where it's like,
let's get back to Spaniard. So current stuff, like what would you say is the difference between the stuff you've worked on in the past and what you're trying to achieve now?
It's work in progress, really. Like the main difference I feel that it's less to quite a few degrees. It's less ideologically interested in having to be hard and heavy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's less interested in that. And it already, I think, towards the end, when the last songs that we recorded that went unreleased, there were some signs that some of that stuff was going to...
Well, one of those songs was released on that already dead tape sampler, right?
Just one.
Yeah.
I think just one. Like, I talked to him about releasing the other stuff. I think, actually, the other stuff, and even Tom and Ethan, the drummer and the guitarist at Spaniard, have pushed me over time. They always say, hey, we should put that stuff out. But I don't want to put it out without slapping, like, some artwork on it and making, like, it just seems... And I'm also removed enough from that stuff now where, like, I don't really feel the need. I understand why, like, at some point, but it's not a pressing matter to me, put it that way. But as far as the difference, I think there's less interest in wanting to be hard and heavy, and I think even Ethan and Tom somehow independently bit the bug where they want to try and be funky, which funny enough, like I think it sounds different, but there's more overlap with the Spaniard now with what Nonzoo was doing that there would have been back then. So there's that. But also I think it's part of the problem now, like that project, where it is now, we're just sort of trying to figure, like I think independently and together, kind of what it has to be or what it needs to be. And it's unclear still. I just know that like the way even though I'm the same person, but I listen to more music, I've played more music, I've like tried to add on to the vocabulary repertoire. It's a lot different. Like the choices are very different, like what I make now. And some of the stuff, because of where every individual is at musically and personally, some of the stuff is clicking and some of the stuff is having a hard time clicking correctly. So we're like in the midst of that, because some things go and some things feel like there's only one person that feels like allegiance to it, and the other people are like, yeah, I don't know about this. It's trickier now. It's trickier. That's how I feel. It's taking a long time. And also, like, the thing that's making it difficult too, like, I think we have like changed a bit individually as players. So like finding it's a bit harder to find like the Venn diagram where all three of us are like, yes, you know, it's way harder. It's way harder right now. Sometimes it's way harder where it's almost like deeply frustrating, and sometimes it's way harder in a better way where like the result is way more mutant, which I like. When it's working, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. When it's not, it's like everybody starts to get personal. Well, but if we did it like this, you know, that'll work. And then one other person, or it'll be me, and be like, I don't know if that's good. And, you know, and toss it around the room.
So you're saying democracy doesn't work?
I'm saying democracy, like right now, it's making the process more convoluted than it would be if, like, with each idea introduced, like somebody was running point on it, instead of having to find, like, which I understand is necessary, instead of having to find, like, all three of us agree on this. It would be, like, much easier if the initial idea or groups of ideas that somebody brought in, even the person either was like, or I'm running this, we're going to do it this way, or the other two people, it's like, this thing is yours. Let me know what you need from me out of it. It'd be much easier. That's kind of one of the big issues right now we're dealing with. I'm getting used to the idea of, like, you have a basic idea that you bring in, whether rhythmic or melodic, a combination of both. Deal with building a song or building a construction of some by dealing with variations, because it makes it more organic. It doesn't feel like, I mean, sometimes you have to abandon an idea to progress a song, or you need the contrast, but it's good to have, you know, I mean, you do this with your music, so you know, like, so you have a main thing, and then you do subtle variation and inflections with what you're doing before moving on to the next thing. And, like, I think that's, to me now, that's just more organically sound than to just, like, part.
Yeah, as opposed to the hard juxtaposition, riff salad thing.
Still is great sometimes, but, like, now that, and there's also the fact that, like, I'm leaning more into the fact that, like, as a player, I can play and lock in with the drums, but I also can circle around them. Or if the drums, there's emphasis on playing, you know, like, I'll just get playing, like, the main accents on the 2 and the 4, where mine are going to be on the 3 and the 4. You know, shit like that. So we're like, it's not quite like always sandwich. It's the delicate balance that you can have in, like, you know, like creative like jazz or the Ornette Coleman shit. There's more of that. So, like, I find myself less and less wanting to be like, everybody hard hit the marks together at the same time. It's good for some shit. It's not good for others.
So to wrap things up here, I think we've gone for not that you're boring, but
no, it's okay.
We could talk for a while. Vocally, you should ask Lizzy Descloux.
She's dead.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's dead.
Well, we'll edit out this faux pas of mine.
Yeah, she's dead. She's been dead for a long time.
My bad. Apologies to the
she's been dead for a long
estate.
Time.
But when do you think we can expect
out the mix? By the way,
when do you think we can expect new Spaniard?
That's like we
either live or recording.
Recorded, like, you know, that's the thing. Like, we're grappling with stuff now, so, like, I don't necessarily know. When it is the live, it's hard to say for anybody.
Yeah.
But recorded, I honestly think for myself, if we had not made any appointment to get something scheduled for a recording the second half of next year, it's almost like, is this gonna happen? We have songs that we could play. That we could play through. I just wish there were more. And there's a lot of things that are started and not finished, and I'm just waiting for completion. That's essentially that.
You think there's enough for, like, an EP, though?
Yeah, there's enough for an EP, because you can make an EP for, like, 5 minutes. We have, like, 12, 13 minutes of playable music.
That's an EP, I'd say.
Yeah. So we had that. And then just, like, twice the amount of that on unfinished shit.
So 2021, you're guaranteeing me that there will be new Spaniard.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there already is new Spaniard.
Yeah.
There already is new Spaniard. Like,
that we could hear, though.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay.
No, that's a conversation I need to have with them, too. Like, what? Yeah, you know, it's funny because some of the things that we've been going through, like, it's something that, today's Sunday, right? That's tomorrow at practice. I mean, to bring by just to be like, so, let's put kind of some goals on the fucking whiteboard here is what we're trying to do, because there's no sense in like keeping, even though we're not playing live shows, you can still do recordings.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do here? I mean, I kept at this question back to you too, because we're not as in touch as we used to be, and we no longer occupy the same practice space, so that makes it even the distance, like it amplifies it. But like I heard, and it's funny, like it's weird that it feels like that I feel like minimally, very tangentially involved still somehow. I heard that you're working with a singer. And I also remember...
This is probably going to be cut out.
No. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And I also remember...
Well, hold on. So we'll keep talking, but I think we'll wrap up the pod here. Thank you to Evan Stan Bingus Laxmer III. You could find his stuff online, his older stuff. And new material will eventually...
Next year, there'll be something.
There you go. 2021.
Yeah, there'll be something. It might not be Spaniard even. There's a bunch of stuff that needs to be tied together.
I didn't even get into your artwork as Abe Collins.
Yeah, that's just...
But I might have to ask you for something art-wise down the road. But all right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for talking to me, buddy.
Yeah, no problem, dude.
Love you, Papa. Oh, hold on, wait. Before we go, I'd like to publicly acknowledge you as my musical mentor.
Oh, come on,
and
man.
my older brother of sorts, in that I love and hate you sometimes.
Oh, no, that's what it's like with a brother.
Oh, yeah.
It's totally what it's like. You have a brother, so you know.
I talk to you more than my actual brother, which I don't know what that says about me. It's weird.
Well,
this hobby of ours.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm kind of like, we haven't been in touch so much, but like I don't really talk to my sister that much either. But it's also because she's like across the fucking country. And we also really only talk when there are family issues that deal with my mom and dad that has to be taken care of. Funny life, sometimes that's just how it goes.
Last thing. So Lizzy Descloux is really dead? I fucked that up?
Yeah, I mean, she's been dead for long. I don't remember how she died, but she lived a full life, man. She was from what I understand, she was like I don't know if a socialite, but more like a social butterfly. She got around. She was like, she lived fully. Let's put it that way. She lived fully.
Good for her.
Lived fully.
All right, and that's the pod. Thanks.